Alright, we are 10-0 with this deck, double trophy, so I think we keep playing it for now, but I think I want to get rid of the second Toxic Deluge and replace it with the second Engineered Explosives, because we've seen lands, we've seen Red Stompy in one of the leagues, so I think against Chalice of the Void and Construct tokens, I think it's important to have that, so let's try how we will fare with this. Alright, we are on the play against an unknown opponent with a hand which is a bit difficult on the blind without bobble, because we don't know what the opponent is playing, and also we looked them up on MTG Goldfish and there was no information. So I think that's a really underrated aspect of Mishra's bobble here, that it informs what you can look for. So we do have big threats, we are a bit lacking in small threats. So I think we do want a double blue, so I think in the blind I'm going to go for Underground Sea. If it's like Red Stompy, maybe we have to go for basics later. And I think this is not bad. I mean, we don't have a force against fast combo, it doesn't really help. But it has removal and it has more threats. So next turn I think we want to go for Tamiyo plus Wasteland, which is really nicely complemented by Daze, and then keep open the Snuff Out. So I think we draw into the Snuff Out in case the opponent has a Thoughtseize, then we don't have to Daze. I mean, we could Daze Thoughtseize, but I don't really want to, because I think it's much stronger if we can go for the Wasteland and then have Daze active for the next spell. Alright, Tropical Island, so we probably go for a first main phase Wasteland into second main phase Tamiyo into pass the turn, opponent plays a spell, we go for Orcish Bowmasters. Alright, Lorien revealed. So now we can also just first main phase the Tamiyo, no problem. Tropical Island into Tropical Island, so this could be Bug Beanstalk or normal Beanstalk. Alright, they go for a force, but I don't understand why they do it in this order. I think it would have been much stronger to go for the... no, wait. Sorry, of course. It was not on the stack, the Wasteland, yeah. So, of course, they couldn't have done that, right? So, we just Daze the force. I think this is a very strong exchange for us here. And they probably don't have another force, but if they do, then we cannot play the Bowmaster next turn. So, if they have another force, they go down a lot of cards, actually. But... it's not that bad of the situation for the opponent if they can come back with a Beanstalk, for example, because the Daze also puts us back a bit if they get rid of Tamiyo now. But seeing that they cannot get, I mean, if they went for force and prevented the Tamiyo, right, then they would be at 3 cards now, and then they could, for example, next turn stick a Beanstalk. Alright, we attack here, and in our second main phase we probably just play the Surveillant, and we are drawing blind. We had the Ponder showed Daze, Snuff Out and Tamiyo, so I think because we don't really have much we can do, we go for the Snuff Out. The only problem is if they play a creature now, but this seems like a deck with few creatures. Alright, there's Tamiyo. The problem now is if they go for a Brainstorm to flip Tamiyo. I think the best way to handle this is going for the Surveillant here, and the only problem is now they can, yeah, maybe we should, I think this is a mistake. Yeah, they got us good here. Yeah, very well played, opponent. Played around both the Bowmaster and the Snuff Out. Maybe we should not have fetched. And then we could react with the Snuff Out to the Bowmaster. So I guess this was me being too greedy here. Should just have gone into my next turn. I mean, we can still kill Tamiyo with the Bowmaster trigger, and they didn't get Tamiyo activation. So maybe this is even better for us. Actually. No, but we cannot kill Tamiyo, right? We can only... Do we want the third land? Yeah, I think we actually have to take the third land because of Barrowgoyf. Yeah, alright, and now we cannot kill Tamiyo. You can only bring her to 1 because, yeah, and then it upticks and then it will be difficult to handle. Alright, so we screwed up a tiny bit here. I guess we play Bowmasters, we attack. And do we go for the Bowmaster now? I think we do. Because next turn they could draw into one more Brainstorm and do it in response. Yeah, so now they uptick to 3 and it will be difficult. Unless they drew a card, right? If they somehow go, but... Even in they play Wasteland as well. Interesting. Alright, so... But I usually don't play with Snuff Out. So I definitely have to get used to this situation here. So thankfully we went for... thankfully we went for the land with the Survey Land. Otherwise you would be... Very bad spot. I think we just attack here with Tamiyo, and because we don't play Mishra's Bauble, I don't think it makes sense to attack here. They could play with Failure or something. So I think we just are going to represent Bowmaster. However, if we had Orcish Bowmaster, we would probably have played it before attacking to grow the Orc army token. Alright, they go for uptick. And as soon as they get rid of our Bowmaster, they can also go for the ultimate soon. But maybe we still have one more turn, right? So next turn we can, for example, play Murktide Regent. So I think we just continue with the dual lands here. Brazen. I think Brazen is really strong in this situation. But, alright, I also would like to have a land. So, but actually I think it's stronger if we start with Murktide. Because Murktide is more pressure, forces them to find an answer to it. Or we could also crack another clue and draw into a land. And this would enable next turn Thoughtseize plus Brazen, right? Because they seem to be committed here on the Tamiyo uptick. And however, the immediate pressure, I think they don't have a removal spell. So that's my read. So let's attack first. I think if they had a removal spell, they would fire it on the Bowmaster, right? So they could do that end of turn. So because they have a very good place for their removal spell anyways, I think it makes sense to play more spells here. Because then they have to decide. So even if they find a removal spell, I mean, alright, force pitching Quantum Riddler. Right. And we are really mana starved right now. Opponent is on 3. And if they ever go for a downtick, alright, they go for the uptick. So now it's really dangerous here. But they cannot go for the win. Alright, this is really nice. We do have a force for a removal spell on the Bowmaster. So maybe we just attack again. And what happens if they just down tick to 4? Then we should be able to kill it with something. I think we just need lands here. I think we can spare because they just used the force. And we still didn't find a land. It's very unfortunate here. So as soon as we find it, the Wasteland is actually doing us in here alright. So it seems like they do have Veil of Summer probably in the deck. So maybe this was a mistake after all, if they find Force plus Veil, right? So if they have Veil of Summer, I think we want... How many triggers are this anyways? Okay, oh, they didn't draw the Veil of Summer probably, alright. So I think this was too risky, because if they have main deck Veil of Summer, which I don't really think they do, but I mean the way they played indicates Veil of Summer, I'm not sure. And they are heavy green as it seemed, but I didn't see green spells. I just saw Tamiyo, right? And what else did we see? Tamiyo, the pitch of Quantum Riddler. So there are some creatures, so I think we want the Edicts. And the Voidwalkers I like as just more threats, and we can like grab their stuff like a Quantum Riddler. I think Brazen Borrower is maybe not good enough. And we are on the draw, so I think Daze is a bit weak. So more threats is more good. And we didn't see red spells. I mean, if they are heavy creature based, but I still think maybe go down on the removal a little bit, because we put in the 2 edicts. So I think they will play Failure and Riddler, right? So maybe the push is important. So, but they have green. So green is probably for up the Beanstalk. Up the Beanstalk, that's nice to have Force of Negation. I think the Snuff Out is nice as well. But it just feels like, I don't know, it's a bit heavy on the removal. I think it's quite important. So what's the core of our deck? The Bowmasters. I think the Barrowgoyfs are a bit questionable, because if you can get a Barrowgoyf rolling, it's super strong. But against white removal, it's a bit difficult. But I think we can just overload their removal. And they probably don't play Supreme Verdict, because they have a lot of creatures. I think I will just, I don't know, I would really like to find a spot. And because they play Wastelands, I also don't want to go down on lands. I really would like to find a way for the Force of Negations. But I think countering the creatures is actually more important. Maybe -1 Barrowgoyf +1 Force of Negation on the draw. I think because we are a Daze Wasteland deck on the draw, it will be a bit difficult to stick a Barrowgoyf, alright. So this hand is alright. The only problem is if they go for Carpet of Flowers turn 1, we don't have a force there, so maybe we did need the second Force of Negation here. And we also don't have the Brazen. So this is always a very difficult spot here. So, I mean, we have the Murktide in hand, but I still think we start with basic Swamp. And take the Swords to Plowshares. And then start out with Dauthi Voidwalker, right? So we give them 1 mana, but mana doesn't seem to be their problem. However, this means they can now go for a Brainstorm and probably shuffle away at least 1 land. Oh, they have another carpet. Alright. So we don't represent Daze, right? So now it's a good point to ponder. So if we go for Thoughtseize, they will just react with a Brainstorm. I think the best way around this is just playing out the Scalding Tarn and then we pass. And if they give us a Ponder, we just react with the Bowmasters to get at least some pressure going, right? Right, opponent, do you give us a Brainstorm? It's just a Ponder, alright. We could, no, I think we have to react here. Unfortunately, this gives them double the mana, so we probably have to play with 2 lands for the rest of the game because it's too risky to give them too much mana. So this is really bad mana trade, but we, without Nethergolf especially, we cannot play the game on just a single land. So Wasteland maybe could be useful. We could also Wasteland our own Underground Sea at some point, but I think we need to play more threats first, so probably. So hopefully the Ponder doesn't find Swords to Plowshares. Where's the triggered ability here? Alright. They did play out the Flooded Strand, so it's really dangerous now. They have 5 mana and they can go for Quantum Riddler soon. So I think, did they keep the Ponder? Where is it? Casts Ponder, declines. Okay, so they like the Ponder, so I think they have Swords or Prismatic Ending or something like this to play around Daze. Right. So, no, what is it? Leyline Binding? Yeah, looks like Leyline Binding to me. No, that's a really interesting deck, but it's not Yorion. Yeah, Leyline Binding, alright. So now they can go for the Brainstorm as well. Yeah. Yeah, alright. Now next turn they have 5 mana and they can play Quantum Riddler or something like Up the Beanstalk. So maybe this is a good point where we go for the Thoughtseize and hope they just have only 1 threat, yeah. And now we just, I think we just play into it and just hope they only draw lands for the rest of the game. Then we have a chance to win with our, like, I think it's a 3-turn clock if we go for Murktide. So now we just have to hope they don't find a land, right? They don't find a threat. If it's just more mana, like more carpets, alright, Tamiyo is a threat, but at least if we now find a way to answer this, then we can still win. And future Thoughtseizes are unlikely to be good because they probably just play out everything immediately. So we can go for Ponder first and then it looks at more cards. So this is not it, unfortunately. Wasteland's also not really great. Maybe we go for the Brainstorm here. Alright, there is the push. And we want to shuffle away. We also have the Force, which is really nice. So we don't want Wasteland. And Tamiyo we can draw next turn. So we push Tamiyo. We could also like sacrifice Dauthi Voidwalker to get Tamiyo, but then we can never flip her, or if we flip her on accident, she goes to the opponent. So now I think we are in a situation where we have to force everything important, and for example, we are going to force a Ponder, maybe force a Brainstorm, probably. I'm not sure, because you can also just force what comes after the Brainstorm, right? So we know there is a Wasteland as a second from the top, and we don't really want to draw into it. Alright, Mystic Sanctuary, I think this is strong. Opponent will probably get back the Lorien Revealed. Yeah. This is on top, and we have to force it. And I think I'm actually going to force pitching Murktide Regent, even though Murktide is a good threat to finish this game quickly. But I do not want to draw into the Wasteland. So let's force pitching Murktide, play Tamiyo, and play Ponder next turn. Alright, force pitching Murktide. And actually I think it may be useful to... Maybe the move would have been actually to keep the... Do we want to flip Tamiyo? So maybe we just sacrifice this to draw 3 cards. Do we want to flip Tamiyo and get back the force to lock this game up? It's maybe a bit too complicated, but I think it's alright. So I think at this point we can also draw into the Wasteland just to draw clues. Maybe we don't want to flip, no, we want to flip Tamiyo because we want a force, right? So, I mean, we also have a next turn kill, but if they draw removal, I think it's safer if we go for the Lorien Revealed here. So let's Ponder first. We don't want those cards. Yeah, another force. Now we sacrifice the Voidwalker to draw 3 cards. Draw 3 cards, and at this point, next turn, I think the mana doesn't really matter. Now we play Tamiyo. Alright, now I didn't know I would draw into a Tamiyo, otherwise it would have been better if we had played the Tamiyo first to flip her. Yeah, also because of the Force of Will. Maybe, yeah, I think it would have been better to play Tamiyo first to go for the guaranteed flip. Alright, so I think we start out by flipping Tamiyo after the attack. So attack first to go for a clue. So now we miss our chance for Kaito, but I still think it's correct. Bowmasters I think is alright. So maybe we just use the Brainstorm to draw into the Bowmasters. Alright. Brainstorm into Bowmasters. And I think the next Voidwalker is not needed to finish the game, because the Bowmasters will already do it. And however, I would like to play the next Tamiyo. So maybe we don't go for the Bowmasters. Maybe we don't play the Voidwalker right now, but then I also don't like the Voidwalker in this case. So maybe we go for the Bowmaster next turn. I'm not sure. If we put back Voidwalker and Bowmasters. No, I think we would be stupid. I think we put back Voidwalker and Catacombs, and the Voidwalker just doesn't do much if we don't play it right now, right? So, but if we put back Voidwalker Tamiyo, cycle into Tamiyo, yeah, maybe this is the move. Voidwalker Tamiyo. I'm not sure. This gives the opponent a window where we don't have force up. And we haven't played a land, I hope. Otherwise, this is a bit stupid. Alright. Like this. So, yeah, maybe this was too dangerous, but I don't know what the opponent could have played at instant speed. Failure, maybe. I think if they had a failure, we don't know if it's in the deck, but this could have flipped the script here, maybe. I mean, we still have force for the next play, but they could then flicker the leyline bindings. So maybe this was unnecessarily here. Carpet. And we do have, alright, they don't play anything. So now I think we just get back the force or the Thoughtseize. Yeah, let's get back the Thoughtseize. I think this is more elegant. Let's Thoughtseize the opponent. They have nothing, and now we can just go for the kill here. Alright. And in the next one we play against Shiwasu on the draw. On the play, I think we played already Shiwasu, so sounds, but I don't find them. I just misspelled it. I think maybe Japanese tempo player, no, Omnitel. Alright, this is difficult because we have to mulligan here. And this is also something we have to... I mean, we could keep it, but I don't like it because we need to draw into a land to do anything. Yeah, this is alright. Opponent goes to 6, so we probably have to get rid of 1 Daze and 1 Brainstorm, because I think the cards are okay that we have. So I like to ponder more to have a higher chance to draw a threat. Yeah, it's indeed Omnitel, so let's take the Show and Tell here. And their hand looks really, really strong. So... Alright. I mean, we could also have taken something else, like the Ponder, and hope to Daze, get equity with the Daze, but I think that's not correct. Opponent declines to use the Ponder Shuffle, but I mean, we don't know if they are what the Ponder found. It's probably a Show and Tell, but it could also have found a land. And we need threats, and we don't need Snuff Out. We cannot play Barrowgoyf, so let's just play this one. And we know the opponent has a Force of Will already, right? So if they have a Show and Tell right now, we are probably toast. Because, I mean, we can force pitch Brazen and then Daze. Stock up. Yeah, I think we just Daze it here. And I think we force if they force. Because the stock up helps them find multiple cards. Force pitching Atraxa, yeah. And the Brazen is also not that strong. And sometimes you can like go for Omniscience if they have a sorcery speed spell, but usually Brazen doesn't do that much. Alright, now we need to find something which is not Fatal Push. Alright, almost anything else is useful and not a land. Like a Wasteland is good. Yeah, land is not good. I mean, we could even have played a Brazen as a clock. Does the opponent still have the Ponder? No, they went for the Ponder. Alright, so let's play around Daze. They probably don't play Daze, but it's not really costing us much. I mean, if we draw into a Brainstorm, then we could suffer, but otherwise... Alright, opponent has 3 mana, but apparently no show and tell along with it. So we attack first because I don't want to shrink the Goyf here. Yeah, let's mill. Bowmasters not bad. Also we can get both down. So we just hope we survive one more turn and then we should be in a strong spot. Maybe Thoughtseize we can leave in. For the unlikely chance we will flip Tamiyo and recur her, but I think the game will be over before that. And if the opponent doesn't have the combo right now, we could represent lethal very soon. So let's go for the Bowmaster if they go okay. And interestingly, we see red mana and a lot of red mana, so it's probably not Omnitel, so we want the Hydroblast, right? So if the opponent now finds Atraxa, I think then it's still maybe winnable. Because we have an 8/8 Murk and a 4/5 Barrowgoyf, so we have 2 lethal attackers and they have to jump block with Atraxa. Ah, but Atraxa has first strike, right? Let's check. No, she doesn't have first strike. Alright, so there's a show and tell. Alright, so we probably lose Omniscience. Yeah, but what's the last card? Yeah, this is probably also enough for the opponent to win. If they find Emrakul. Do we have enough cards to survive Emrakul? We have 8 permanents. We would probably have to keep the Bowmaster, but we also want to keep the Barrowgoyf and Murktide. Yeah, we're probably just dead. Because they also get a bunch of life with Atraxa. And then next turn, alright, you can just press F6. So this is really close here. Let's see, there's also sneak attack. But yeah, makes sense. Doesn't make sense to use the sneak attack when you have the Emrakul trigger. So... And we also have to... no, we don't have to block Emrakul. Alright, what are they sneaking in? Yeah, this is GG. Close one. So we want the Hydroblast and the Force of Negation. And I think the Dauthi Voidwalkers aren't bad, because you can sometimes use their own spells against them. Barrowgoyf, I'm not a fan. Snuff Out, Fatal Push comes out. I think you can sometimes, especially if they are on the red variant, I think the Edict can sometimes work to finish them off, even though they often get the triggers, right? So it's a bit questionable, but let's try it. And Consign can be good. I mean, they sometimes board in artifacts, or sometimes they play like Yggdrasil or defense grid, something like this. We can also counter an Emrakul trigger. And they may also have Tamiyo. But I mean, this is also something that Sheoldred's Edict covers. So, Daze you want to keep. Surgical and Consign, this is kind of the stuff we could use. So, for example, if we counter one show and tell, we can surgical it. I think this is alright. And I'm not a fan of the Brazen here against the non-green variant. Do we want a Consign? I want to bring in one Consign as well. Normally, I would think about like cutting a Murktide or something, but we don't have a Barrowgoyf, so I think I don't see the room right now. Maybe we cut one land. I think we don't need basic island. They could go for a Blood Moon, actually. So maybe let's cut a blue fetch land and bring in this one. And it was a mulligan to 5, so I think this was still quite close. Yeah, let's keep it. And I think we go for, I mean, if they have Blood Moon, maybe we want to go for the Flooded Strand. Because then we don't have to force the turn 1 Blood Moon. But I think they're unlikely to go into Blood Moon. But if they do, I think we go for the Verdant Catacombs here. Because if they go for not Blood Moon right now, then it's probably better. Yeah. Because we can go for the Surveil land and then go for the basic island next turn. Alright. So let's go for the Sewers. Opponent didn't go for a cantrip, interestingly. No, I think 3 lands is fine. Thank you, deck. Yeah, I think we just go for... Now again, do they have Blood Moon or not? If we ever find a Brainstorm... Yeah, I think it's just not worth it to play around Blood Moon here. Because they're just unlikely. Maybe they have 2 in the sideboard and then maybe they don't even bring it in, right? I think it's just too unlikely. And I'm going for the end of turn Bowmaster here. If it gets countered, yeah, there's the Brainstorm. But I think we have to move at some point. And we also have to do some pressure, right? Alright. Because especially with stock up, the deck just represents a lot of damage. Alright, we have Ponder. So the problem is we cannot ponder into a Wasteland. We could ponder into another Bowmaster, which is, I think, something I would keep. But I actually like the Dauthi Voidwalker more. I think Dauthi Voidwalker is really strong in this matchup in case we find like a... So let's attack first. Now we really don't play around Blood Moon. But if we ever find a Thoughtseize, also this speeds up the clock. So now we can also be more liberal with our Force of Wills, right? Right, what's the opponent going to do? This makes sense. They want to fetch before the Voidwalker comes down. So opponent, very experienced player here. Alright, they have enough mana. And we have probably a 3-turn clock, right? Because I think at some point they are going to draw a card, like here. And if we ever find a Thoughtseize, then we can probably grab an Emrakul or something and lock up the game probably. Because we play Emrakul and then we even get the extra turn. Alright, Mistrise Village. This is really problematic here. Now we really need a Wasteland. I hadn't thought about Mistrise Village. Maybe we now need, but they didn't have show and tell last turn, right? Because, no, it needs extra mana. So they need one more mana source and then they can win. So do we want to gamble on them not having the mana source? I'm not really in the mood to gamble here. I think we sacrificed the Voidwalker to cast the Ponder. It's just too risky for me. Yeah. Cast the Ponder. And I mean, what this allows us to do is we could theoretically, if they go Mistrise Village into and they showed Omniscience, right? So if they play Omniscience, the Edict doesn't help. But Shuffling is also a really weak move here. We can go for the next Ponder and have, if we play the Ponder, we have 2 more looks. So let's do that. But it's really unfortunate. So, yeah, we didn't find anything. And also, I think the problem is we don't have any pressure right now. So we whiffed on the pressure. I think we just have to shuffle here. All right, let's go for the Brainstorm. And I mean, at least now it's really unfortunate. I think we get rid of 1 Murk and 1 Delta. And we just have to hope that we can successfully do something with the Edict. Maybe I should have, I think this is a mistake. I should have put down Force of Will, I think. And then bring in the Murktide with the show and tell, and then the second Murktide grows the first Murktide, right? I think this would have been the winning line. Because then we have more pressure. There's the sneak attack. Alright. Yes. Cannot counter it. Alright, if they go for sneak attack, I think this is fine. But I think double Murk. Alright, that is an Archon of Cruelty. I think now is the time where we fetch. Let's go for basic island in case they do have a Blood Moon. And now we go for the Edict. They sacrifice the Archon and we do it before the trigger resolves because they might draw into another force or something. So now we sacrifice the Orc Army token and we discard, I think, 1 of the forces. And we get a new token. Alright. Problems now. All of our cards do nothing. Alright, so let's attack here. Like, they just need 1 more creature to win. But I think if they had an Emrakul, I'm not sure, or an Atraxa, maybe they would already have brought it into play. So the problem was really also the whole stuff. We were just so wasteful with the Voidwalker, but I think we had no choice. It was just too risky, and I mean, we used 3 cantrips. So I think we were a little bit unlucky there, but that's fair if you think we had enough luck in the last 2 leagues. Alright, so there's a Brainstorm. Yeah, so we often have the situation here where we get a Brainstorm with a Bowmaster and still manage to lose. So this could happen again here. So this looks like the opponent doesn't have a creature in hand. Do they have a creature now? Looks like it. There's an Emrakul. Alright, we are at 14 life. Oh no. Why did we go down so much on life? And our nice counter hand does nothing here, so we sacrifice the 6 permanents. And we have to block. If we were at 16, we could win here, but... Alright, so... Opponent shuffles their graveyard. And we have nothing. Ah, I'm so bad. I should have... Ah, oh no, sorry guys. I should have forced the Brainstorm. I totally forgot about that one. Yeah, this was on me. I should just have... If I just forced the Brainstorm at this point, we probably win the game. Ah, I was just so focused on like the Bowmaster value that I totally missed that. Ah, this was so bad. Alright, what is it? Now I do an uncounterable Brainstorm. Ah, just, yeah. Totally didn't think about that possible play. Just force the Brainstorm. But, I mean, or did they use the Mistries? I don't remember. Yeah, let's just concede. GG. Alright, so we are 11 and 1 right now. Alright, we are on the draw, so let's mulligan here because we don't have a land. We can keep this, and I think we just win one of the lands, so we can get 2 basics if we have to. Let's see what will happen. Get a bunch of pop-ups from Magic Online. Alright, it looks like one more fair blue mirror. Thoughtseize, yeah, this is a bit annoying. Getting Thoughtseized all a mulligan, so I'm not sure what the opponent will take, right? This also could indicate, like, if they are on a combo deck, they probably take away the Force of Will. If they are on a creature deck, they may take away the Fatal Push. If it's like a control deck, maybe they take the Murktide Regent. Alright, they are taking away the Murktide Regent. So we unfortunately don't know what the opponent is on. Maybe need to look them up. The opponent was last seen on Dimir Tempo. So let's assume that for the moment. So this means I want to develop a basic island here and ponder into more lands and threats. I think this is really nice. So we want the Daze right now. And then we can go for the other fetch land next turn, right? But we also want the, yeah, I think the Underground Sea last, then Barrowgoyf and Daze. Alright, so this means we have the option to Daze something. The Barrowgoyf is safe from another Thoughtseize. Opponent could go for something like Orcish Bowmasters right now, which we could Daze, so we could also push. There's a Wasteland, so it's good that we went for the basic land here, right? So if they play something, we probably go for the Brainstorm next turn, because we want to play around Orcish Bowmaster. So I'm going to assume the opponent has Orcish Bowmaster, so I'm just going to pass the turn here. Let's see if the opponent goes for Bowmaster. Yeah, so let's go for... We could even Daze first. Maybe this makes sense. Yeah, let's Daze here. And if they have... Ah, they cannot double Daze anyways, but still. I think we used the mana for a Brainstorm. No, we cannot Thoughtseize. This is a bit annoying, but I think Thoughtseize is maybe not that great at the moment, but the Force is also not good because we don't have a blue card, so let's put away I would say the Force and the Thoughtseize here. And if we get Thoughtseized again, we are in a rough spot. But otherwise, it should be alright. So, the opponent could now be 2 lands up. And if they go for a Barrowgoyf right now, we can push it. Problem is, it's possible that they have a Daze, right? And then they go for a Thoughtseize again. Yeah, this sucks because now they can take our Barrowgoyf. But on the other hand, the Barrowgoyf is also not that threatening for them because we have 1 land. So especially if they have a Daze as well, can take a long time until we find the Barrowgoyf. So we could also go for a Surveillant, but I don't really like playing into the Wasteland here. We probably want to fetch away the Thoughtseize. The interesting, they take away the Thoughtseize. So they don't care about the Bowmaster. Alright. I think now I want to fetch the basic Swamp here. So they are not scared of Barrowgoyf. What does this tell us? We could play the Bowmaster right now, but that's usually not great in the Bowmaster mirrors, right? So it's also interesting that the opponent didn't play a land last turn. So they seem a bit light on the lands, right? So we probably slam a Bowmaster end of turn to take out the Daze if they have one, and then we try to, but they know about the Barrowgoyf, so we can't really. I think this is the moment where we go for the Thoughtseize. If they have land in hand, then it could suck, or just a Daze, because if they have a land and a Bowmaster, we could be in big trouble right now, but I think we have to play for the board here somehow. Push Underground Sea. So let's see if they send back another land. I mean, they could have one and didn't play. No, they have double Wasteland. Interesting. So if we find a Wasteland, could be in a very strong spot. Kaito would be not that great because they can waste. So I think we don't play out the Underground Sea. I think we just attack and hope they don't find or don't have their own Bowmaster, right? And I think they have no Daze because they would have probably dazed the Bowmaster. So it's a bit unfortunate that we could not get in the Barrowgoyf. So what does the opponent have in hand, right? They could have a push that they don't want to spend. They could have a Murktide. We could force them to push the Bowmasters here in by fetching. And thus we threaten Kaito, right? The question is if that's worth it, and I think it's not worth it. Yeah, they have their own Bowmaster, which is annoying. But they must have drawn it later, I think, or they just play around Daze. Alright, do you block? Yeah. We could go for a push right now, but I think it's better to do it in the opponent's turn. Because if they have a Daze, it could be more awkward if they have to return the land. I'm not sure. Maybe not. Right, we get attacked here because of... but they cannot go for Kaito because they only have 1 land. So maybe we take the damage here. Alright, but now we push it. in case they had a Barrowgoyf or something and the Force. So now I think losing the land is okay, but we have to find another threat, I think. So, alright, we get Wastelanded in response to the trigger. And Force we don't want. Alright, we get wasted and we go to our turn. And we have a Kaito, which unfortunately now doesn't really do anything. I think it's okay if we play out the land right now, because this means if they go for a Wasteland, or maybe not, maybe this was, I think this was a big mistake, yeah. We should not have done this. I mean, they can always waste in response to us attacking, but still, if we draw another Barrowgoyf and we get wasted, then it's really annoying. On the other hand, if they don't wasteland us and we can hardcast Kaito, then it will be really strong. So, but yeah, we just get wastelanded here. They know about the push. But now they are also limited on mana, but I think we shouldn't have given them the choice. At least now we don't need to worry about Bowmaster if we draw something like a Brainstorm. They draw a Brainstorm, and I don't know why they are on 7. Okay, it's just a Brainstorm, they are on 5. And I'm on 2 cards in hand. I mean, I had to mulligan, but and there was also the Bowmaster. Yeah, there are 2 cards up. There are 1 card up from the mulligan and 1 card up from the Bowmaster trade. We are up 1 minute in time, but it's probably not going to matter. So we do need to get something going here. All right, let's play the Flooded Strand. And what's most threatening, I mean, a Murktide can kill us quickly. Tamiyo we can hopefully answer, but if they have Tamiyo plus Brainstorm, I mean, we probably just lose to the card disadvantage of the bad Bowmaster trade plus the mulligan. It's really hard to come back unless we get a card advantage engine going. Like, if they don't have a Daze, there's a Murktide there. I think now if we find a land, we just need to slam Kaito and hope they don't have Force or Daze. Don't really have time here. So if they don't have the Daze, we can still maybe win. But if they have the Daze, I think it's almost over. Because even... Yep, there's the Daze. No. So even if we find the Brazen, they can still replay it. I think we have 1 Snuff Out, but then we go to 3 life. We could find another Kaito. This could maybe do something. But then they also have 4 cards. Yeah, alright. So we want the Edicts, Barrowgoyf Voidwalker, and nothing else. And we bring out Forces and Daze. Or maybe on the play, let's try it with 3 Daze, 3 Thoughtseize. Yeah. But I think it's still correct to play the Bowmaster here, because at that point we were wastelanded, we didn't really have much going on, and like if we could have gotten the Kaito in at some point, I'm not sure. But I think it was definitely a reasonable play. I'm not sure if it was the perfect play, but I think it was okay. But I think playing the Underground Sea was a mistake at that one point where we didn't have a land in hand. And in the meantime, we can take a look at the opponent's last trophy deck. So they had 2 Baleful Strix where we have Barrowgoyfs, interesting. So, and 4 Bowmasters. So we really need to be careful before we play the Bowmasters, and they have stock up. Alright. So I think their variant is a bit ahead. But at least now we have a really, really strong start. Because of the Voidwalker, I think we actually start with Underground Sea into Tamiyo. Even though it's tempting to go for basic island, but we want to have a follow-up play for next turn. And if we can Daze a removal spell, then we cannot go for the Voidwalker next turn. I think we... Yeah, I think it's alright to Daze Tamiyo here, even though this makes the Voidwalker slower. But I think it's still worth it. Alright, the Daze back. So we both have Tamiyo, they have basic island in hand. So at least we get our clue first, right? And I think we play the Polluted Delta, so we can have a good chance of getting the Voidwalker next turn. And I like the Daze here, definitely. So the opponent plays out the basic island again, which means they cannot go for a Fatal Push, but there's a potential for a Brainstorm, right? So let's see. No, they don't have Brainstorm. So we go for the Surveillant now. And we don't know if they have another Daze, at least we should be ahead in the mana department and maybe can get something. I don't know this one, alright? They are... This I'm not agreeing with this play, because now the Tamiyo is not flipped, right? So I think... they were scared of that if they Brainstorm in the main phase, I would respond with a push, alright? But, I mean, if I want to push... okay, at least this way they can kind of guarantee the flip, but it's only a 2 loyalty. So we go for Undercity Sewers. Bowmasters is really strong. So the question is, they have a Daze and a Brainstorm in the graveyard. I think it's actually better if we go... I mean, the Bowmasters means if they get back the Brainstorm, they have a problem, but they can only uptick anyways. So I think the Voidwalker is quite nice to have out early, because this means that the opponent has problems getting cards in their graveyard. So they don't seem to play Nethergolf. But for something like Murktide Regent, it will be hard for them to get enough mana and delve, right? And we should still be able to play our Bowmasters in time. So if they play dual land now, we play the Bowmaster and then we waste. And I think we go for the Clue Cracks later. If they play Barefoot Strix now, we also play Wasteland and Bowmaster. I think in most situations we play Wasteland and Bowmaster, right? So if they play Fetchland, however, maybe it's better to go for Basic Island. Could also go for a combination of swords. Let's play them. I think we can go for Wasteland here. Thoughtseize. And if they have a really strong card in hand, we could sacrifice our Voidwalker. Let's see what they have. And if they now go for a fetch on a duel, we have the option to Wasteland. And if they go for a Brainstorm, we can go for Orcish Bowmaster They play their own Orcish Bowmaster, which is nice. Because now we get the trade that they got last game, right? Alright. So the opponent has a Kaito. We could sacrifice. We could also play Murktide, but it's only a 3/3. I think playing a Kaito is really nice. Yeah, I actually think I want to exchange my Dauthi Voidwalker for Kaito, but let's play the Bowmaster first. Now we kill the opponent's Bowmaster while we still have the Voidwalker. And the thing is, we don't draw a card with Kaito, right? Because we don't do damage to the opponent, but I think this is still alright. We sacrifice the Voidwalker and choose Kaito here. And play the opponent's Kaito, and now I think we just go for... Did the opponent lose life? They fetched, right? They fetched this turn, so we can go for the Surveil here. And I think we want the push now and the Edict next turn to kill Tamiyo. We already played the land. Alright. I think this is quite a nice spot. I mean, they do have Murktide Regent, which now their graveyard is unlocked again, so they can go for Wasteland on our Wasteland, maybe a useful play. I'm not sure if that's worth it. They waste our Underground Sea instead, alright. I'm not sure if that's good. I think it's better if they protect their mana. I mean, they cannot go for Tamiyo Ultimate right now. My monitor is somehow flickering. Alright, they go for Ponder. I think we kill the Orc Army token here, because then we have an easier time attacking next turn. Alright, let's do that. They decline to use... Ah, they do have Nethergoyf after all, alright. And we know they have Underground Sea, Ponder, Murktide Regent, so I think... it's easiest if we just use the Edict to get rid of Tamiyo. I think it's too much effort otherwise. Planeswalker, alright. Like this. Opponent sacrifices a Planeswalker. But maybe it would have been better. Yeah, I think I tapped this wrong this time. I wanted to tap the Wasteland, so now we cannot push, right? Alright, so how do we handle this? I mean, we could also... Right now we didn't do damage yet. So maybe we just tap the Nethergoyf. And then we may lose Kaito. I think this is not perfectly played here. I think it would have been maybe better if we didn't waste and push the Goyf instead, but I'm not sure, because now if they play Underground Sea in Murktide and we tap down the Murktide Regent, then we lose Kaito, right? I think this is not... not good play. So we could also uptick Kaito and use Tamiyo as a blocker. But then we miss a whole turn of attacks there. I think this whole... Yeah. But interestingly... the Ponder is... They played it out already. Yeah. Alright, so what do we do now? We could also crack a clue. Hoping to find something useful. What happens if we just pass the turn and uptick here? I like this better. And then hope they don't have a push. Or we just try to kill them quickly, but we don't have that much damage. Maybe we crack a clue first. Let's see. Our own Murktide Regent. Does this change the calculus somewhat? I mean, the problem is if we just pass the turn, uptick Kaito, and they find a push for Tamiyo, then they can kill Kaito, and then we haven't really done much. Yeah, I think we just... It sucks, but I think we have to sacrifice Kaito. And just go for damage here. Yeah, this was a bit needlessly... Right, opponent goes for a Brainstorm, so now we can probably... we cannot kill the Nethergoyf, because when the Nethergoyf dies as a state-based action, and at this point the Brainstorm is in the graveyard. That's probably better. If we use the damage on the opponent anyways, right? So maybe we should have used the Fatal Push in response to the Brainstorm in case they draw a Daze. Alright, but they draw another Nethergoyf. How much damage do we have? We have 6 damage. We play into Daze, but I think that's alright because we need the mana to draw through our clues. But they have a more aggressive deck with the Nethergoyf, so it's a bit harder for us to kill them quickly, but their Brainstorm of course helped a lot. Alright, is their last card a Daze? Yes, their last card is a Daze. But we draw into another... they have even one more card. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if they have another Daze, then they can Daze Murktide if we start with the push, or we just create a 7/7. I think a 7/7 is enough. So let's... Or maybe attack... No, we want to push first, right? So we start with Murktide, Daze, Thoughtseize, Edict and push and land. But yeah, if we had pushed earlier, but then maybe we would have played into Daze. I'm not sure. All right. Do you have another Daze? There are like 3 Dazes. No, 2 Dazes are gone already. So they could have one more in the deck, or maybe even 2. Right, now we can attack. Put the opponent to 4. And if they find another Murktide, we are in trouble. Or not, the Murktide doesn't untap yet. So they can create a 5/5 Murk. No, then they have to jump block. But the 6/6 becomes an 8/8, but at that point they're already pretty much dead. I mean, they have to jump block the Orc army with the Nethergoyf. Yeah, Snuff Out doesn't help. Ciao.
Ich komme dann selber, okay?
Alright, we win. And I think we, on the draw, we go for the fourth. Oh, but still, I don't like having 4 Thoughtseizes in. I think it's too much life loss. Even on the draw, I like it better with 3 Daze, 3 Thoughtseize. Right, this hand is nice, but the problem is it's a bit soft to Wasteland. Or really soft to Wasteland. Because if we go for basic island, then we cannot play the Dauthi Voidwalker. And if we don't play the Dauthi Voidwalker early, then we are in trouble as well. Basic Swamp Thoughtseize, yeah. Can press F6 here. But now the opponent knows we have only 1 land. Hopefully they just take the Dauthi Voidwalker. Then it's easier for us, I don't know. Yeah, alright, they make it easier for us. So now we can just go for basic island into Ponder. And I think this is nice. I like the Daze, I like the third land and the Thoughtseize. Next turn we draw Thoughtseize. And the turn after that we draw the fetch land. However, there's one turn where we have to play. Yeah. I think I don't care about the Thoughtseize right now here. Doesn't make much sense to daze it. But the opponent Thoughtseizing now could mean that they don't have a second land, but it could also mean that they want us to daze. They took Ponder, alright, interesting. Yeah, they had another land. And we have 2 Barrowgoyf, Snuff Out. So now we play the Thoughtseize here. Right, opponent's going for a Brainstorm. We could daze it, but I'm not sure if it's correct. Maybe it actually is, because they can Wasteland us next turn. So I think I'm going for the Daze here, because they also only have 2 cards in hand. Snuff Out in Wasteland, yeah. Alright. That's already interesting that we have, the opponent has so few cards in hand. Was there a mulligan maybe? Yeah, mulligan to 6. Alright. Now we draw into the fetch land. And then the turn after that we can play the Barrowgoyf. And I don't know why my monitor is flickering so much. Tamiyo we can just Snuff Out. I think we can do it in our turn. They cannot Brainstorm right now, right? So it shouldn't matter. But if they have Force of Negation or something really wild, I think the safest spot is to do it in the opponent's end step. Now they could have drawn a Daze, but the chance is not that high. So we play the Barrowgoyf. Wasteland, alright. And we're down to 12 life already from the Thoughtseize, Snuff Out and the 2 fetches. So we already destroyed nearly half our life totals on our own. Right, opponent, do you have a push? Can also bring in Kaito. I think this makes sense. Petty Theft. Alright. Then we just play it again. And if the opponent has a Wasteland now, they still have to answer. No, the Wasteland wouldn't really help them because then we still have the Barrowgoyf, right? The opponent needs their own Barrowgoyf. But then we play, I think this should be a really strong spot for us. We have the option to play Kaito, but I think it's better if we play the second Barrowgoyf instead of ninjutsuing, because Barrowgoyf also draws a card each turn, basically. Yes. So let's grab, I don't know. I think Murktide's probably the strongest here. And we play the next Barrowgoyf. I think this is the most mana efficient. We could also, in the damage step after the trigger of the Barrowgoyf resolved, we could also have ninjutsu in Kaito, but yeah, I think that's not worth it. They play the Brazen. So if they find their own Kaito, then they can tap one of the Barrowgoyfs. But then they still, but then we can still kill Kaito on the backswing. They have their own Barrowgoyf, yeah, that's a start. So now if we draw a land, I think we just tap down the Barrowgoyf probably. Bowmasters don't really help. Alright, so if the opponent does not block, they are dead. Alright. We could bring in Kaito for the other Barrowgoyf. So, but first let's go for the trigger here. Mill 4 cards, no creature, alright. We could also just go for the Bowmasters. I think we just play, I just don't really like going for Kaito because then, I mean, Kaito draws us cards. Maybe that's not bad. Why is it so difficult? No, I think just go for a Murktide Regent. I think this is the safest play here. I mean, they can still, like, if they find a removal spell, like Sheoldred's Edict, you can sacrifice the Murktide, but it's hard for them to answer our cards. I mean, if they attack with Brazen, we can just block. If they hardcast Kaito, tap Murktide. Also didn't really... If they hardcast Kaito, tap Barrowgoyf. Pass, block. Murktide with Brazen. That's probably their best bet. Then they answered our board. Right, their own Murktide, but it's only a 7/7. I think we just go for the Bowmaster actually here and kill the Brazen. Yeah, and we win the match. Alright, we are on the play in match 4 versus May No Nay, and they play a lot of modern challenges, vintage standard, but I don't see any legacy. Alright, so we are a bit on the blind. So we don't know what we want to ponder for. So against people who never play legacy, I usually index a bit more against combo, but still I think with this hand I will just play Tamiyo right now, and then I can hope the force is enough to survive, and then the turn after that. So I think we attack first. So it's not oops at least, but we still don't know much. I think it would be good to ponder into a black source so we can go for the Thoughtseize this turn. So the Brainstorm is nice, but this is a bit difficult because we don't know if the Fatal Push is good. But maybe we just put away one push. Then we still have one to spare in case we need it. And yeah, didn't find a third land, but we can still use Brainstorm next turn. Alright, so Hedge Maze, so this could be Beanstalk control. No, it's Living End. Alright, so Living End, for those people who don't know how it works, they have a bunch of creatures with cycling usually, like, I don't know, let's just bring it on screen here. Living End. This is the modern version, but I guess the version in Legacy is similar, just with Force of Will instead of Force of Negation. So there's stuff like, okay, Cascade cards. Yeah, they have Cascade cards to cascade into Living End. Where's Living End here? And Living End, this has Suspend, but has no mana cost, so the aim of the deck is to play a Cascade on 3, and then the only thing they can cascade into is Living End, but before that they need a bit of setup, right? So I think we start here. They probably don't play Orcish Bowmasters, so we want to attack here and then Brainstorm. Now we also know what they are playing. And against this deck, I think we just want forces and Thoughtseizes to force their critical pair of spells. And I think it's also really nice here. The push is probably not needed. And the second Brainstorm, we don't need this turn, I think. I mean, we could, for example, play a Fatal Push on a Shardless Agent or something like this, but it's probably not that relevant, the Fatal Push. I think it's more important that we stop the Living End. Opponent there is going interesting for the cycling. So this is, I think, a misplay, because if they cycle, they give us more targets for the Thoughtseize. Right, they just wanted a blue card, but they didn't want to use this one as a blue card. Alright. I think we let this resolve, because we can just get the Thoughtseize back later. And Force of Negation only works on our turn, I guess. That's why the Force of Negation the Thoughtseize, right? So the thing is, their cyclers, like Shardless Agent, costs 3 mana, right? So I don't know if they play like fast mana, like Chrome Moxen or Simian Spirit Guide or whatever, or if we can just stop them with Wastelands. They have really a lot of creatures, a lot of cards in the graveyard already. So I think, it's got, sorry guys, I totally forgot, it got, it gets, of course, gets exiled, so we cannot even get it back. So let's brainstorm here. And unfortunately, we don't hit a shuffle effect. So maybe we have to put back Push and Bowmasters because they don't help. And we need Ponder, and we hope to find the Wasteland. Daze is actually not bad. If they want to go for exactly 3 mana, I think the Daze is highly effective. The only problem is it's only one good card. The rest doesn't really do anything. But still, I think it's alright, because if they go for the Shardless Agent and we Daze the Living End, maybe the push is actually not that bad, because then we can push the agent at some point. And we can rebuy the Force. We just need to survive this one turn, right? Where they may have Force of Will plus Living End. And then we can rebuy the Force the turn after that. Alright, we know we have Orcish Bowmaster on top. Also, if we can somehow get our creatures in the graveyard, it can somehow be useful, but the way the graveyard is stacked right now, it doesn't look like we can contest the Living End by putting our own stuff in the graveyard. Yeah, I think we just go for Murktide here. Maybe we attack first. And the Clue Crack can at some point enable Revolt, but this is probably not relevant. And it doesn't, I'm not sure if they play Wasteland, so I think I'm not playing around Wasteland here. I would rather keep open the Undercity Sewers in case there is a need to push something. Also, I don't know which one. Also, I'm not sure how much flying blockers they have. I mean, the End has reach, but it's a 5/7. But I mean, if the Living End gets through, then the Murktide is dead anyways, right? The way it works is it like switches around the dead and the living creatures, and because this goes through the exile zone, the Grafdigger's Cage doesn't help. Alright, so we have Surgical, and the Voidwalkers I think are really good in the matchup. So the important thing is also really common beginner's mistake is to counter the Violent Outburst, especially in paper. So the way this works is we need to let the Cascade ability resolve. Now we have to hope they don't have a Force of Will. So they don't have, interesting that they don't keep open green mana for something like Veil of Summer. Alright, so we need to force pitching Murk. And if they can force back, we probably lost. Do they have Force blue card? Yeah, they have Force blue card. And so maybe we should have forced, but I don't know, if they had the Force, then maybe forcing back on the Thoughtseize wouldn't have helped, I don't know. So we can now Daze, but this doesn't help. So we exile our creature cards. We don't have creature cards in exile. Yeah, I think it doesn't make sense here. We could push our own Tamiyo. So at least we get a Tamiyo. But I still don't like the results here. They get a token. Their creatures are right. So we have Tamiyo against the world, basically. So can we somehow come back against this? I mean, they have a bunch of creatures, but we have a Tamiyo. Let's see. Let's pop a clue token. At least I think we uptick Tamiyo and keep our Tamiyo back. And we're probably dead. But I mean, we can, for example, block a Street Wraith and keep Tamiyo alive. And we should survive for one turn. And I think being on the play should really help here. So if we block 2 damage, there is 8 and 5, 13 damage. We go down to 6, we fetch down to 5, and we are dead. Next turn, maybe I should have played the Bowmaster as a blocker. But we can do that the next turn as well. Ah, this has Swamp Walk. Ah, alright, so we block this one. Alright, do they have more stuff? Ah, another Violent Outburst. Alright. Can they choose to say no? Because I think if they go for a Living End right now, I think it doesn't say on the interface. So now the problem is we are dead or not. So this is 6, 11 and 7 is 18. So now we cannot go for the fetch anymore and we go down to 1 life, right? Because, yeah, the problem is now we cannot block. Alright. Yeah, let's concede. So I think Fatal Push is really useless here. We do want Consign to Memory. I think the deck is actually quite bad in Legacy because does Consign to Memory even help? Yeah, Cascade trigger, right? Cascade is a triggered ability. And they had red mana, so let's take that. Surgical is not great because only takes a bit of stuff, but Voidwalkers should be good. I think maybe we can even go for Toxic Deluge. I think Daze is nice. Snuff Out, no. Bowmasters are not great. Thoughtseize is a bit risky, but I still think we want it. And Brazen, I don't think we need Brazen. I mean, it can bounce a big creature, so maybe it's not totally useless. But yeah, I think Brazen, it's better to have maybe an Edict. If something gets through, maybe you want an Edict for a creature. But what do we ward out? No, I think if they get in... So we have 60 cards, yeah. This is fine. They don't have... I don't know if they play Blood Moon or something like this. In any case, we have Force of Negation and Consign to memory. This is really nice. And I think we don't go for early Kaito, and I think I'm going for the Dauthi right now. They can cycle one creature, but I think this is alright. Yeah, Force of pitching Architects of Will. Unfortunately, we cannot force back with Force of Negation. So Dauthi is our super weapon against this deck, so if Dauthi doesn't work, and I think I will disconnect the monitor for a second because it just flickers the whole time. It's a really expensive OLED panel, but somehow not. Okay, so we go for the Wasteland. I mean, you could go for Hardcast Kaito, but I think... Ah, they have Crashing Footfalls as well. And Consign to Memory is really strong. That's why I also don't really like the Rhino deck right now. I think we can go for Barrowgoyf actually. Even though this means that next turn, if they have a Force of Will, they can go for the Living End. But I think we need to put some pressure on. So I'm going to risk it right now. I think I want to have one threat because I mean we don't know what else, right? They could have Veil of Summer or Carpet of Flowers or something. So I think if we wait too long and the opponent already spent a force on our Voidwalker. Of course, the annoying thing about Living End is that it's also removal at the same time. Ah, they have the Spirit Guide, alright. But you only have one creature there, but it's a big creature. I think I don't even care about the rhinos necessarily. But, I mean, we might as well force... I don't know. Actually, 2/4/4 rhinos, I think I don't care. Feel free to have this one. Now... I can play Kaito. And tap down a Rhino. Right, do you have a counterspell? Mystical Dispute or whatever. Veil of Summer. Mystical Dispute, sure. No. And... I think we just attack. I mean, they can trade with a Rhino and the Agent. Yeah. But we get 5 life out of the situation. I think if we just hang back, we don't have a removal lined up. Yeah. Why does it not? Ah, we need to have, I don't know why. Right, like this. I mean, they still got something out of the process, so maybe I should have forced it, but I don't know. I thought can just ignore it. So let's go for the Thoughtseize here. And let's hope. Okay, what do you have? A Brazen, sure. Force of Negation, Mystical Dispute. So I think I'm going to take the Dispute. And I'm just going to play Murktide Regent here. And I can even keep up the Consign. So we know they have a Force of Negation in hand. And they can attack for 7. I think I'm going to get rid of the Tiger, because that's the only red mana, and they kill me in 3 turns, and I kill them in 4 turns. So I'm just going to pass. Ah, I didn't see they have another Crashing Footfall. So, but now in hindsight, maybe I was too cavalier with letting through the Crashing Footfalls, but I was just thinking maybe it's like a test spell, and maybe they just want to bait me and then go for Living End. Alright, so I think we just play Kaito here. And they cash in the Force of Negation by exiling a card. Alright, fine by me. Suspend 2. Hydroblast. And I'm not quite sure how it works with the forest cycling. Sure, get the forest. So I think there are 2 triggers, and we have to, when the last is removed, you may cast it. I think this is the one we have to consign, and then it's gone forever. Right, I think we play it out. There's also some merit of keeping it for a Brainstorm. Alright, opponent has 0 cards in hand. So this one I think we let through. And now, which one is it? Triggered ability will resolve. You may cast it. The trigger is gone. Yeah, I think this is the correct time. And I think we can play, we don't need to replicate. Now it should be gone forever. I hope we did this correctly. Yep, seems like it. I think in paper it is really awkward. You have to say, I want to consign the trigger, and I say, but this is the wrong trigger. Alright, Thoughtseize, no. Hedge Maze, they played out. But I think this one we probably don't show, so in case we draw a Brainstorm into Ponder or something. And my monitor is still flickering, I don't know why. We only have 10 minutes. Okay, we need to hurry up here. Need like 8 minutes, I always think. Endurance. I think this is alright, because this actually grows our Murktide if they make a mistake and exile our graveyard. Alright. They take their own graveyard, alright. This is also, I don't get it, because this means if they find Living End, it does nothing, right? Finally, Ponder. Can we find something? No, we cannot find something. Oh my god, we really don't find anything. Maybe we play out the land next turn, because we could hardcast Hydroblast, Force of Negation, and sure, do you want to grow my Murktide now? No. Right, at some point, I mean, they can also need a Barrowgoyf. Right, we block. If they have some combat trick, we can probably counter it. So this looks like the red thingy, right? So I think we first counter the Cascade ability. And then we counter this one as well, right? And we win. Interesting. And I think we play it back. But maybe if we know they are on Rhinos, I think then Engineered Explosives are also really strong. So maybe that's their switch. Maybe that they know we go for Graveyard Hate, and that's why they bring in the Rhinos instead of the Living Ends. Maybe they take out all the Living Ends. So I think we play the Engineered Explosives here. And what do we take out? Murktides are actually quite nice. I think the Consigns are really good. So they bought from one bad deck into another. But I just don't know what we need to cut here. They could still have some Living Ends. And I think the Dauthi Voidwalkers, or maybe get rid, no, but I think the Surgical is also alright if we like counter one of the payoffs and then take it out of the deck. Yeah, this is really, really difficult here. Maybe we take out, they could go have Blood Moon, but I don't think so in that 3-color deck. Maybe take out Basic Swamp. And the game goes long and they have Spirit Guides, but no, still Daze is strong. Maybe the third Murktide. I don't know. I think Dauthi Voidwalker is like a replacement threat, and it's even if they don't go for Living End, I still like the Voidwalker because it still does damage. And it's kind of a Living End insurance if you have it early enough. On the other hand, the Murktide this game saved us. But it's interesting that they conceded. I think they still had some play when we had to get rid of 2 cards. Alright, I like this here. Because if they go for like all in on Rhinos, then we can get rid of it using Engineered Explosives. But because we have nothing going on, I think we have a lot of lands, I think we start with the Wasteland. Why is my monitor flickering? Play out this. We can go for the Surveil land. Maybe Surveil Barrowgoyf into the graveyard. Alright, Generous End. But if they've, I think the problem is the cycle creatures don't really synergize that well, right? With the switch to the Rhinos. They don't seem to play Daze. So let's see here if we find another Wasteland, for example. Yeah, I think we just go for the Wasteland right now. And if they go for Spirit Guide right now, we can use our Daze really effectively. Only problem is if we Daze, then we have to pick up the Undercity Sewers, but I think it's not that much of a problem here. Cycling, yeah. Next turn, maybe we misstacked it because we could have drawn the Ponder, but instead we drew, yeah, I think this is wrong. This is wrong. So we just play a land and pass. Yeah, the Ponder would have been way better in this turn. And next turn we cannot Ponder because you probably want to go for the Barrowgoyf, right? So this really looks like Living End. So I'm not sure if in the game 2 they went for Living End plus Cascade, but you cannot choose what you get, right? So that's the advantage if you play such rare decks. Oh, yeah, I really would like to have played the Ponder. I think we don't. I think we cannot go for the Barrowgoyf. This would be too dangerous. So let's go for the Ponder here. Yes. And Hydroblast. It's all great. Hydroblast. Brainstorm, Wasteland. I think we forced the issue with the Wasteland on, I don't know, they have everything 2 times. I think taking them off double blue is maybe good. But it's a bit weak. Maybe it would have been safer to go for the... Because we don't have another blue card, right? This is a bit risky here. Right now they go for the cycling. Cycle. Yeah, I'm a bit worried. Maybe we should have taken... And this was our land drop, right? Maybe we should have taken the Hydroblast instead. Alright, now we have the Brainstorm available. Alright, so let's play the Brainstorm here. Ah, they can go for the combo now. Alright. Yep, we have to let this resolve. Now we can only force with the Daze. And we don't have access to the Hydroblast. Ah, that was so bad of me and so well played from the opponent. Yeah, this is, I'm not used to those play patterns here, so I can only hope they have no Force of Will and no Force of Negation, but I think we just... Ah, okay, they have Mystical Dispute anyways. But we would have survived if we had the Hydroblast instead, right? So the opponent gets like 5 million creatures. And we're probably dead. Yeah, if we had the Hydroblast instead, could have Hydro... Ah, no, but wouldn't have helped. The Hydroblast can only counter the Violent Outburst. Maybe the Hydroblast isn't even good to bring in because the Cascade trigger is... Right, we cannot counter the Cascade trigger with it, only the Outburst itself. So maybe it wasn't a mistake after all. Alright, how dead are we? So this is like 5-5 and 4-4. This is 9, 12, 17, 20. Okay, this is more than enough. We can kill the Oliphant, but we're still dead. Anyways, GG. Interesting. And we are on the draw against Bada Bauma. All right. We are going to keep it. It has a bit too many lands. But we can hope to strand the opponent. No, but it's probably not good. I think it's better if we start on basic swamp. No. Then we cannot Daze. Yeah, I think we have to go for the Underground Sea, which means it was incorrect to go for Polluted Delta. But it's better to like switch off of a bad play than stay at it. Alright, so the opponent has Street Rave, so they can flip Tamiyo next turn. But we have the Bowmaster. I think we cannot answer Murktide right now. So let's go for the Murktide here. So it seems like a really creature heavy Doomsday variant. So the second Tamiyo, but they can just attack, pop a clue and use the Street Rave. This is interesting. Do they do that? Basic Swamp. Yeah. Oh, they have a flip Tamiyo. Not bad. Alright, but we can now go for Orcish Bowmaster. I mean, they also don't really have much going on right now, so we could also Wasteland or what. I think it's better if we go for the Bowmaster, because they usually don't play Bowmaster. Hopefully they don't have a Force or a Daze, but at least we also have a Daze. They pitch the other Tamiyo, alright. They are sacrificing their land, that's really aggressive here. Alright. Not sure if that's worth it. So now next turn they can uptick Tamiyo to 5. And we can attack Tamiyo. Alright, they take the other Bowmaster. That's a bit unfortunate. Also, they now see we have nothing going on here. Alright. I think we wait with the Brainstorm for next turn. We can still Brainstorm in response. And the uptick Tamiyo, so attacking doesn't do much. So if we get Thoughtseize now, alright, they go to 7. But they probably don't have removal in Doomsday, right? So I think they can never go for the ultimate. Again, we are assuming they don't have a Bowmaster. I think we just play Tamiyo here. And they can always downtick to get Thoughtseize. So maybe we just go for the Brainstorm right now again. Hope they don't have a Bowmaster as well in their Tempo Doomsday deck. And so we know they play Tamiyo, so push is not dead. But we redraw anyways one card. I think we put the Ponder on top. It's probably the card you want to hide the most. Alright. And if they have a Fatal Push in the deck, then they can just push Bowmaster and win, right? Otherwise, the Tamiyo doesn't really do that much. I mean, they can rebuy the Thoughtseize. It gives them a bunch of time. This much is sure. Can also... We could also rebuy the Brainstorm next turn. Ponder, alright. We're going to assign 1 damage to Tamiyo. goes to 8. So we have one land on top right. I think we just maybe draw into the land with the Brainstorm and then no, but we have a fetch. Let's ponder first. Thoughtseize. I think the problem is they can already get everything back, right? So I'm not sure what we actually want. I think this is not great. Yeah, Brainstorm is nice here. But maybe we wait with the Brainstorm. Let's uptick Tamiyo. Let's attack Tamiyo. So what we are looking to find, I think, is more Bowmasters, because if they go for Doomsday, then they want to cycle. I think having the one push is alright, because they might have another Tamiyo or like a Barrowgoyf or something. But it's really interesting. The Tempo Doomsday deck, they have like some of the cards of blue-black Tempo, but main board they have really less removal, so the Tamiyo is less threatening. Also, they usually play less Bowmasters. Alright, they go for the uptick. Again, I'm not going to play around Bowmasters against Doomsday, so let's put back Bloodstained Mire, and I think the Wasteland is nice. Do we need another Tamiyo? I think it's actually not bad. Let's draw into the Tamiyo. Also, we can just go for the win, right, with Tamiyo. So I think we don't want the Tamiyo after all. No. This is really nice. Let's Thoughtseize. Daze, Dark Ritual. Let's take away the Daze. Then we can bounce this one. And we win. Alright, interesting game. I think the Voidwalker, I'm not sure how good it is. I mean, it does something against Murktide. I think it's not bad. I'm not much of a fan of Barrowgoyf, but maybe take those out. Snuff Out is good against Murktide. Force of Negation is nice against Doomsday. Consign against Tempo. Sheoldred's Edict is really good. Maybe we ease a bit on the push. I mean, push is good against unflipped Tamiyo and Barrowgoyfs. So they probably bring in Barrowgoyfs. It's really difficult against Doomsday because we want so many cards. So what are the core cards, right? Let's see. The best cards against Doomsday. Okay, against like combo Doomsday, the best cards are Force of Will, Consign to Memory, Force of Negation. Those are the super top cards. And maybe, and also Bowmasters are really good, and Daze are really good. So maybe the Voidwalker is not it. I mean, it stops Murktide and it does damage, but like if they have Barrowgoyf or they play Doomsday, I think it's not good enough. Our Murktide, I like to cut Murktide against like Super Turbo Doomsday, but not Tempo. The Snuff Out. Snuff Out is also a nice removal. But I just feel we have too many small creatures removal. But sometimes they also push out a lot of small creatures really quickly, or like Barrowgoyf with Dark Ritual, and if we don't have push, we just lose. So Thoughtseize, Wastelands, all good, but we could get rid of like one Wasteland and just tell them, well, yeah, I think we just go out of the Daze Wasteland angle on the draw, and we say, okay, buddy, you have infinite mana with your Dark Rituals and Lotus Petals, and we answer the stuff after the fact, right? So if you play creatures, we push the creatures, we snuff out the creatures, we edict the creatures. Yeah, I think this is okay. So maybe the opponent has only mana and nothing behind it. And they also nowadays sometimes play Wasteland, but I'm still not going to get rid of this hand because otherwise it's really strong. Other than a weakness to Wasteland. I mean, cantrip would be nice. So I think we just snuffed this one out, right? So let's go for Underground Sea. We could also push it. But no, I think I like this more because then we can play our own Tamiyo. And if they force the snuff out, we can also push. Alright, force pitch Murktide. Now we just push it and hope they don't have Wasteland. Daze. I think we can force pitch Brazen here. Now we just hope we don't get Wastelanded. Right, we do get Wastelanded, interesting. So now we have to draw a land. Don't draw a land. So it says sure, now they can take the Force of Will, and if we don't draw a land soon, we are in a lot of trouble here. Alright. Now really weak to everything, they just need to have something. Yeah, looks like. Alright. Barrowgoyf. And we are dead. So maybe we should have played it more aggressively, like with forcing against the Daze. Or like forcing, I don't know. So we hope they miss. I think, they declined to use the Barrowgoyf's ability. This is interesting. Don't know how that happened. Anyways, we go for... I think this is a misclick. Don't usually want to decline the Barrowgoyf. So I'm not going to block. Because it's possible they don't find a creature. What is it? Bowmaster, Dauthi Voidwalker. Or just a bluff. Sheldwit's Edict or something. Maybe I need to block next turn. Tamiyo. Alright. We do have the cards in the deck to handle this stuff. We just need to find land and a push. Alright. Can we find a land and a push in time? Problem is if we take one more hit. Yeah, we're probably dead. Yeah, we are dead because we cannot... I mean, we're not completely dead yet, right? because we can go down to 1 life and then block with Tamiyo, but we can never force, we can never fetch. Yeah. And next turn we draw another Thoughtseize. Yeah, we did. GG. Alright, so we only got 2 wins. I thought we lost the match already. This is just a game 2, sorry. Alright, so how did this work out? So the opponent went heavily into creatures. They have Wasteland, so maybe we want more lands just to have like the option. I think they didn't go for Doomsday, so maybe go for 1 single consign here and put in the Dazes back in on the draw. So maybe we get rid of the Force of Negations. Let's try this one. So instead of, the problem is we don't really have enough of a defense against Doomsday. So maybe we take, I'm not sure. Let's hope this is enough with the Daze and Wasteland. And this hand is really threat light. But at least if they do some big push with like Pedal into Dark Ritual and then we counter, we should be in a strong spot. We are pretty well insulated against Wasteland. And Fatal Thoughtseize also doesn't do that much. Ponder, alright. Basic Island Ponder. And if they go for duels, then we can also keep them down with Wasteland, but alright. So let's go for the Surveillant here. Ponder is excellent. I think we go for basic Island Ponder in case they have a Daze. More lands, that's something we don't want, so let's Ponder again. Yeah, I think this is fine. We do have the Ponder and Edict. And then we can Ponder away the last land. And we have insurance against Doomsday. And if they have a creature, we can use the Edict next turn. And then Wasteland as well. So we play around Daze as well. We just don't really have a threat. Yep, let's just Edict that. There's a Brainstorm. Yep. It's okay because we have the Edict, so we can just make them sacrifice Tamiyo and then we force back probably. Question is if we force pitching Consign, right? Alright, we play around Daze. Sacrifice a Planeswalker. And do we want to pitch the Consign or the Ponder? I think we have to pitch the Consign because we're not sure if they're even on Doomsday anymore. They Daze, alright. Let's pay, this is fine. Do they have a double Daze? Or do they just want to save their Underground Sea? Now they force, Orize force pitching Murktide. I think I have to pitch the Consign here. And would suck to now lose to Doomsday, but they showed me only creatures the whole time. Right, desperation play from, but we know the opponent has Underground Sea in hand, right? So let's go for a Ponder here. Yes, I think we go for Tamiyo here, and then Daze is also really strong. And Bowmasters also, everything is strong. But they could have another Daze, I think. But we were tapped out, weren't we? So maybe they don't have a Daze. I think it's best to go for the Tamiyo. And then the Daze next turn. And then the Bowmaster. Because if they play out the Underground Sea, then we Daze something. I mean, the Bowmaster is okay. I think this is not that great for them. And we know we have the Bowmaster on top. Alright, and we know they still have the Underground Sea. But they want to prepare, maybe they want to prepare for Doomsday without Dark Ritual or something. Now we draw blind, so let's find out what they have. I mean, now we expose ourselves to Wasteland again. So I think actually the Barrowgoyf is not as threatening right now because of Daze. So I think we take the Voidwalker. But this is very risky. But like if they... Because if they draw a Daze, then this could backfire in a very horrible way. But at some point we can also flip our Tamiyo, right? So if the opponent is very heads up, they could sniff out our Daze. Or maybe they found their own, no. Alright, so I think Andreas told me of some situation where the opponent then, he didn't have the Daze, he just pretended to have a Daze, but shouldn't do this against opponents you don't know. Alright, do we want to flip? I think we don't want to flip here. I think we know the opponent has Underground Sea and one unknown card in hand. It could be a land. So I think now we attack. And I think I want to crack a clue. Do I want to do that? I could crack 2 clues. But I think Wastelanding is better so they cannot hardcast Doomsday or stuff like that. Yeah, let's do this. And that. And if they have Doomsday, I think it's also hard for them to win. Alright, we went for the 3-2 instead. So maybe I didn't play this perfectly. I'm interested what you think. But all in all, in those 3 leagues, we went 13-2. I think that's not bad. I think I will continue with this kind of list. And see you.